Hi, everybody. It's Kathy Ondas. I'm just jumping on here a few minutes early to make sure you can see me okay and hear me. If you're watching live, please leave me a comment and let me know that you can see and hear everything okay. If you are watching from Facebook, right down below the video, there's going to be a link that you click that allows StreamYard to identify who you are if you leave a comment. So please go ahead and click that link if you like. If not, all I will see is that you are a Facebook user. So I'm really excited to be here with you today. I'm Kathy Ondas with Simply Cards by Kathy, and it is Monday, April 25th, 2022. And today I'm excited to share with you one of our new stamp sets that will debut next Tuesday on May 3rd, Happiness Abounds. And I'm going to show you the designer series paper, which is called Hues of Happiness. It's very colorful. I love both sides of the paper. Normally I chop my paper up, but because of the sides, and I'll show you in a minute, I didn't do that. So we are going to make a slimline card, and hopefully I will give you some inspiration to go ahead and make one for yourself. So we are going to get started. The Happiness Abounds, really beautiful flowers for stamping. It's a photopolymer stamp. Mine is a little bit stained as I've been using it quite a bit. And even though I'm not going to use these larger flowers today, I did want to show you how pretty they are when you stamp them, and I used my Stampin' Blends on them. So hopefully you can see that. And this is on the shimmer white paper. So we're going to be doing more with that in the next coming weeks. But I'm excited to use that with you. It has a beautiful die set that goes with it. And the piece that really caught my attention and that we're going to be using tonight, I call it a trellis because it reminds me of a trellis that like flowers or roses would grow up along. And we're going to use that with our card today. I'm going to move these off to the side, and I want to show you real quickly the designer series paper. This top piece is the piece that we're going to be using, but you can see from them spread out here, just beautiful colors: Coastal Cabana, Daffodil Delight, Melon Mambo, Gorgeous Grape, Fresh Freesia. All florals, and some of them can be cut out with the dies in the set. And if you turn these over, they are almost like water painted rainbows. And you can see why I didn't cut them up, because I'll be able to cut them up as I decide which colors I want to use on my cards. So really very beautiful paper. I was excited to kind of get my hands on this and start using it. So we're going to set this off to the side, and I'm just going to give you a little bit of information how I made this card. This is the card we're going to make tonight. I have to be honest, I've not made a slimline card before. Well, I take that back one. But I thought this was the perfect paper to do that because I wanted to be able to use or see all the colors in it. So the reason I made this card, it was a card challenge, and we were given a sketch. And this was the sketch for the card, and it went into a blog hop. So it was to look at this sketch, and I love to do card challenges and I love to do sketches because it really gives me ideas for cards. So if you ever have a mental block and you're just not sure what to do, just go on Pinterest or look up on the internet for free card sketches, and there are tons of them, and they do really give me some inspiration. So this is the sketch, and this is how I interpreted it. I interpreted it with the 3 flowers going across the trellis and then my greeting. So with that in mind, and everybody interprets it differently, we're going to go ahead and recreate this card. So we're going to set this off to the side. And for this card, I chose to use the one with you. I chose to use the same paper, but I cut it a little bit differently. This time I cut it from the bottom up because I wanted these colors. Now, believe it or not, this color is identified as Coastal Cabana. But when I held it up to the cardstock, it really looked more like Bermuda Bay. And it's probably just the way it's colored, like if we were using our blends. So I chose to use Bermuda Bay for my card base. Now, don't worry about writing everything down because all the measurements, supplies, directions are going to be listed for you right below as soon as we're done here with the video. So our card base is 8.5 inches by 7, and it is scored on the 7-inch side at 3.5. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to fold this and do a nice crisp crease with my bone folder. I hope you're all having a great Monday. And excuse me if I seem a little bit hoarse. For some reason, I've been hoarse today. So here's my paper, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to adhere this, and I'm just going to use my multi-purpose glue. So let's put that on now. Now you could use your Stampin' Seal if you want to, but I like the multi-purpose glue most of the time because it allows me to slide so that I can get this centered as best I can. Okay, so there's our base. Now, on the outside, we're going to do the trellis. So I want to show you how you would do that. I took my trellis and this is a piece of 3.5 by 4, which fits this just perfectly. And I go ahead and we're going to pretend I'm running over to this cut and emboss machine and cut it out. And well, actually, I'm going to do that because I want to show you something. So I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back, and normally I don't like to do that and have you waiting on me, but I wanted to show you what this looks like. So when you run this through the cut and emboss machine, it only punches out some of the pieces, and I'm going to show you just partially. But then these other pieces, let me get my pick tool. Pieces that aren't cut all the way through, like this one, is just cut through half partially. And these are meant to add some dimension, texture to your card, because you can see you can pop them up. And in the new catalog, Stampin' Up! Has some other die cuts like this, which I'm really anxious to order because I love the fact that you can add some texture with the die cuts and that it doesn't cut them all the way through. And hopefully you can see why I thought it looked like a trellis. So I'm not going to have you watch me punch all these out. I went ahead and did one, and I'm going to show you what it looked like. And let's just get some of this out of the way. So here's the one that I have once I've punched all of this out. And hopefully you can see I've popped up some of the little leaves that are only partially cut through. I didn't do it in the middle because that's where my flower bouquets are going to go. And then I cut this down to, oh my goodness. Again, it'll be in the instructions. I think it was 2.25. It is 2.25 by 3 3/8. And that'll be in the instructions. And I cut that off at the ends just so that I could go ahead and pop this up here. So let's do that with some Stampin' Dimensionals because I want to give it a little bit of elevation. When I first used that, what I'm calling a trellis die, I guess I wasn't sure what to expect. I did not know that it wasn't going to cut all the way through. So it was a pleasant surprise when I saw that it kept some of the cut areas in there. Now I want to add some extra dimensionals here. So what I'm going to do is just cut them in half and add them to the, I don't want them to be seen from the outside. So just going to make sure by cutting them in half that they stay hidden, especially with all these extra openings on this die cut. Remember that next Tuesday, the new catalog debuts. I'm very excited for that. Because when we do our pre-order as a demonstrator, we're only allowed to order certain things. We're given a list. So we don't have access to the whole catalog yet. So very anxious to order a few more things. If you have your catalog, leave me a comment below. I'd love to see what stamp set you're anxious to work with. So here's our Stampin' Dimensionals, and I'm just going to go ahead and pop this on. And that's there. Now, with the stamp set, you have a couple different bouquets, and I wanted to stay with the small floral images. So I used a small stamp set that stamps a bouquet, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to stamp a couple using Memento ink. Now we're going to color these. Now, one of the things I want to remind you with coloring is that you really need to let the ink dry before you color, because if you don't, it's going to smear. And we just had this discussion in our group last week. So I'm not going to stamp 3 because I, to save some time, went ahead and didn't want you to have to sit and watch me color. I went ahead and stamped 3 and I colored them. But I do want to show you about the coloring. Now with this one, I used the Stampin' Blends. And if you do that, you can see maybe that I have some variation in color. But if you do that, remember your Stampin' Blends have 2 ends. They have a wide end and they have this smaller or thinner end. Use the thinner end, and when you're doing something like this, instead of coloring hard, you want to color lightly, and you may even want to do dots to color that in. The other thing I want you to remind you is don't go all the way up to that edge because they will bleed. You want to make sure your ink is dry, and then you go ahead and color, but you want to stay a little bit away from the edge. So I'm going to try and bring you in just a little bit closer for a minute. And instead of using my Stampin' Blends, I chose to use my Stampin' Right markers. So one of the things, I have Mossy Meadow here, and I'm going to use the smaller end. And I'm just going to trace the leaves, and I'm just going to do a line. I don't go back and forth when I'm using my Stampin' Blends or my Stampin' Right markers. One of the things is if you go back and forth, you are going to cause some pilling of the paper. Next, I'm going to add just a little bit of yellow. And again, using the small end, just a dot in the center. And then on the flowers, I'm going to use the larger end. I feel pretty confident in using it. And what I do, just to show you, is I just go one way and color in. I don't go back and forth because I don't want the pilling. And markers spread, the ink from markers spread. So I don't go typically all the way to the edge. I go right up near it and I let that ink spread without trying to go outside the lines. I find that that keeps my black ink from running or smearing, and it gives me, I think, a prettier image once it's colored. So this is in fresh freesia. So there's our flower. But we have flowers cut, but hopefully it give you a few tips in using those. So let's go ahead now, and we're going to pop these up with a dimensional. So here we go. I'm just gonna put those 3 right across, kind of like my sketch was. And I did these in Bermuda Bay, Daffodil Delight. Let's put the Bermuda Bay in the middle, and Gorgeous Grape. So let's get those on there. If hopefully you all have your catalog by now. If you don't, and you don't have a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, just go up to the corner and click on my website and go over, contact me, and I will be happy to send you a catalog. Here's my flowers, and I wanted to dress it up a little. So what I did is I wanted to use my linen thread and just put some small little bows on there. So I went ahead and made 2, and I'm just going to show you how to make one. I was horrible at bows, and I've done a lot of work and practice with them, and now I find them pretty easy. I do think they're easier to do when you're using the linen thread or, oh my gosh, my mind escaped me for the other one. I make 2 rabbit ears, just like that. And then I wind one around the other and bring it up through the loop. And I end up having to work with them to pull them. So I just go back and forth until I get it the size I want, until I get it as tight as I want it. And I just keep working with it. It usually just takes me a little bit, but that's the way I found, for me, the easiest way I found to make a bow. And I know there are other ways, but for this, no matter what I do, I cannot make one like you would tie a regular bow. I'm all thumbs. So here's our other bow. And I'm going to go ahead and grab my snips, and we're going to trim this off here. And we're going to put these on with glue dots. Let's go ahead and do that now. I simply put one on the back and take it off and kind of ball it up back there. And then just going to go ahead and put it right on the stems. So we're going to do that for all 3. And then our last one. Now for our greeting, I'm going to do a birthday one because I have quite a few birthdays coming up here. So here's our bouquets, each with the little bows, and you can trim them off a little bit more if you want to in the end. So we're going to set this aside, and I'm going to bring in some scraps for our greeting. I'm going to go ahead and use the happy birthday. So let me pull it out here. And for those of you that have watched me before, I told you I don't do anything straight. So I use my grid paper, especially helpful when I'm using a photopolymer stamp to pick up my stamps because I can see it straight. So let's go ahead and do that. And I'm going to bring in my Memento ink. I just want to make sure I have it inked up well. So you don't get a second chance unless you turn it over and have to do it again. Okay, I'll take it. I'm happy with that. So then the next thing is to cut our mat for the back of this. And I actually wanted to show you how to do that. So let me grab that here. I used the punch here. And I will have the name of it in my, with all the information below because the name escaped me. And you can do 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch, or 1 inch. And you have 2 different designs you can choose from. So I chose this one. And I had a piece of paper here to show you how to use it. So I'm going to cut a quick piece so that I can show you how we did it. This is going to take, we're going to use a 3/4 inch piece of Bermuda Bay by 4 inches. So let's just get that cut real quick here so that I can show that to you. Because it took me a little bit to figure out how long it needed to be for this card in particular. And this is 4 inches. So I want this one. So what you're going to do is I open up my back and I'm going to slide this in the track here. And you can see the track just all the way in till it stops and then press down. And then slide it out. No, it didn't stamp that well. Let's see if we can do it again. Okay. And then slide this in. And it's in the track. So here it is. Now this one is longer than what we needed. So I just wanted to show you how to use it. And all I'm going to do with this is glue this right into the center here because I'm going to pop up the Bermuda Bay piece once this is matted with Stampin' Dimensionals right underneath. Okay. So let's pop that up here. If you like the video at the end, please give me a thumbs up and help me grow my channel. And if you click on that little bell there, you'll be notified whenever I'm going to do a video. I do them scheduled regularly on Mondays at 7. And then I do Fridays called Friday Fun at 1. And I would love to have you join me. Here's the outside of our card. Now for the inside, I'm not going to stamp anything, but I am going to decorate the inside with a piece of matching paper that I cut that is 3/8 of an inch. And I did do it thin at 3/8 because this is a slim card. And by 8 3/8. So let's go ahead and adhere that in. Just do some glue. And if you are using a patterned paper, try to keep it with the same direction as your other paper is, because this is one you could flip around, but then your purple would be, the grape would be up at the top. And we're just going to go ahead and adhere this to the inside of the card. Oops, not backwards. So just going to go ahead and a little bit of an edge all the way around. And I'm going to wait to see who I send this to before I stamp my inside. So here's our Slimline card using Happiness Abounds. So I hope you enjoyed today's video and today's card. Leave me a comment below and let me know whether you like the Melon Mambo or the Bermuda Bay one. And I hope to see you on Friday. Thank you for joining me and have a great week. See you soon.